Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for A Gruesome Twosome, released in 1945. It's the 456th in the series and it's directed by Bob Clampett. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Gold Collection Volume 3 DVD set and on the Platinum Collection Volume 3 Blu-ray or DVD set. I'll have links below to both those sets. It is under copyright. You will not find this on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it. If I try to do so, it'll just get taken down. But in case you haven't seen this one, you have two cats fighting over a girl cat who then issues a challenge that if one of them can get her a bird, then that cat can be her fella. So the two compete to get a bird. In this case, it's Tweety, who is barely even mentioned in the very beginning. I keep forgetting that this is a Tweety short, but no, it's definitely a Tweety short. So in this review, I'm going to take a look at this short from start to finish and go through all the trivia for you. And my good friend John, he's going to jump on and share his thoughts about this short, as this is one of his favorites. But the main bit of trivia for this one is that this is the third and final Tweety short directed by Bob Clampett. And it's also the final naked Tweety short. There was issues with the Hays Code regarding the fact that Tweety was quote-unquote naked. I mean, he's supposed to be depicted as a newborn bird, right? So it has no feathers. But the Hays Code looked a bit more closely and yeah, it didn't quite work out. So Clampett, he actually did start working on a fourth Tweety short, but he then left the studio and it was abandoned pre-production. Freeling then took over. He made his short, which was called Tweety Pie, that was released in 1947. It had Tweety redesigned and with yellow feathers, and it ended up winning an Oscar for the studio. Now, these cat characters, two of them are actually referencing real-life figures. The yellow cat is just your generic dumb cat. Love the design here of all these characters, by the way, especially this yellow dumb cat. But that red cat with the giant nose, that's a parody of comedian Jimmy Durante, who had a very large nose and he had a face that was right for caricature, and this is not the first nor the last time he'd be parodied in an animated project. So you have the girl cat, voiced by Sarah Berner. So Mel Blanc does all the male voices in this one and Sarah Berner does the girl cat voice. She sounds kind of like Gracie Allen, and I believe that's who is being imitated here. If you don't believe that's the case, definitely let me know in the comments. But I was listening to Gracie Allen's voice and the voice done here, and it sounds just about the same. So I believe that she's imitating her. But definitely let me know in the comments below if that is incorrect. But let's take a look at this short from start to finish and go through some of the trivia and any other interesting observations. One interesting thing, because Carl Stalling, the person who does the music here, he loves his musical puns. So of course the opening title song is She Broke My Heart in 3 Pieces. But you got this interesting floral design for the background. I don't know why that was actually picked for the opening cards. Anyway, that's not as important. It's just one of those little details that you probably wouldn't have noticed if you were watching this on TV back in the day, like on Saturday mornings or whatever, well after this was shown theatrically. But in this brand new HD restoration, yeah, you can notice some of this stuff. And yeah, I'm not sure why they went with this, but that's all right. We start off with the yellow cat and the girl cat meowing. And what song are they meowing to? I'll give you one big guess. And remember, Carl Stalling loves his musical puns. Of course, it's Meow, an actual song. And it's not the first or last time that's actually been used in a Looney Tunes short. But yeah, it's Meow by Mel Kaufman. But this opening shot is great. I love the silhouettes of all the cats in the front. So you've got this short, it's filled with very expressive animation, and we'll definitely see a lot of that as we go along, especially by Rod Scribner and Manny Gould as well. But in other bits like this, Clampett knew that less is more. He would have these foreground shots of all these cat couples in silhouette as we hear our two cats singing meow, and we pan over to them. But to be a fly on the wall, seeing both Mel Blanc and Sarah Berner do this particular scene would have been hilarious. Can you just imagine the direction Clampett would have given them? Okay, I want you guys to sing like cats to the tune of Meow. Sure, no problem, Mr. Clampett, and up they go. That would have been a sight to behold, I think. Especially with Mel Blanc going off on his own little tangent as he's singing along, as we see the red Jimmy Durante cat, I'm just going to call him the red cat from here on, pop up, being really annoyed at what he's hearing and ending up hitting the yellow cat with a frying pan that I'm assuming was just lying around here. The animation of that, you'll be hearing this along this review, but you can't deny it. A lot of the animation here is so expressive, so hilarious. This is Clampett at his peak. And not only does the red cat look like Jimmy Durante, but he even sounds like him. And it's kind of interesting that in later years, Mel Blanc would say, oh, I don't do impressions, when he clearly did in the past. To be fair, he did a lot of voices and he would have just forgotten, or it's old age or whatever. But this is definitely what Durante sounded like in a lot of his movies around this time and earlier.
Well, inky dinky do. You say you're kinda lonely. You say you crave romance. You say that you go gaga over anything in pants. Well, ha-cha-cha-cha-cha.
If you haven't seen a Jimmy Durante film, definitely do yourself a favor and check one out. But I've always loved Mel Blanc's dopey voice, and sure enough, he uses that for that yellow cat saying, hey, that's my girl.
Hey, pardon me, friend, but that's my girl.
Beat it, bub. I'm waking this side of the alley.
So we get a rather lengthy scene here of Red trying to woo this girl cat and making all sorts of big promises. You want a big fancy apartment, you want a fancy car. Again, pretty much imitating what Jimmy Durante did, all the while in between the yellow cat would be like, hey, that's my girl, and the red cat's having none of that, and even shooting him at one point where the yellow cat's fur just ends up disappearing and reappearing again in a rather nice effect. But at one point, he even offers her nylon stockings, and what's interesting is that nylon stockings was actually fairly new. They were seen as a rather luxury item, especially around this time when the war was still going on and nylon stockings weren't exactly plentiful, so any wonder he offers that alongside all the other things like expensive cars and that sort of thing.
With me to the Casbah, incognito. Baby, we can't miss. You'd like a pair of nylons, huh? Then, honey, how's about a kiss?
But after a while, it becomes a case of, so you want a kiss? Red prepares to kiss, but Yellow gets the upper hand this time and ends up pulling him down. And we get to one of the funniest scenes, not just in this short, but it's one of my favorite scenes in all of Looney Tunes history. This random dog that just says, I actually don't belong in this picture, but I can't pass up an opportunity like this, and ends up kissing her and then disappearing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't actually belong in this picture, but I can't pass up a chance like this!
Yay! Woohoo! Everybody wants to get into the act.
The red cat pops up and he says one of Jimmy Durante's lines. Everybody just wants to get into the act. But look at this bit of animation here. Normally when you see characters fighting in a Clampett short, you see the full effect, right? Here, you see a shot where Yellow is trying to hit Red on the head with a club. He hits him, but we get a flash and we just see the aftermath. Not sure why Clampett hosts have it done this way, but it is rather effective, and it was just something that stood out to me here. So the two cats start fighting in a moment that is a great example to slow-mo, where the girl cat naively asks, are you two fighting? And that shot where it's all paused and we can see the gun and other weapons between these two cats. Love the reaction shot there. And the yellow cat reacts with, fighting? And the red cat says a line which Clampett has been using constantly recently, which is, well, now I wouldn't say that, which is based off a radio character at the time by Richard LeGrand. And if you watch Drafty Daffy, which is the previous Clampett short, where the man from the draft board says that all the time, well, you know that Clampett enjoyed using that quote. And so the girl cat says, whoever can bring me back a bird, they can be my fella. And the two cats get very excited and decide to race towards somewhere. I don't know where on earth they're racing to, but they end up racing.
I'll tell you what. Whoever brings me a little bird can be my fella.
Fella! Get on your marks. Get set. Go!
So Red ends up tying Yellow's tail onto a weight, and We get some wonderful bits of animation here where you got Red running really fast, but Yellow, well, he's pretty determined to get that bird, where even this weight doesn't hold him back. But that weight ends up contributing to a wonderful gag where you think, oh, he's going to make it over this wall as well. But no, Red just happens to have a tub ready for him, and you can see the end result here. I've always liked when Clampett does the effect where a character doesn't shatter, a character would hit something, but then just turn into liquid, get poured out somewhere, and then just, I guess, reconstitute themselves, for lack of a better word there. Always loved that effect. So we see Red is successful and he tries to look for a bird and he looks up on the nest and he sees a nest. Now the timing of this bit is incredible, and normally you associate great timing with someone like Friz Freleng, but Clampett was certainly no slouch at doing this either. So you got the two cats circling around this pole and then they both climb on each side of the pole up to the timing of the music. Now, the next bit is actually a bit of lifted animation. Honestly, people wouldn't have known at the time, and it's pretty seamless here, so it works perfectly fine. But it is definitely interesting to note that even though Tweety is the star, and he was starting to prove very popular with the audiences, he doesn't even appear in this short until halfway through. In fact, it's not even noted in the beginning of the title cards. So later on, once Friz Freleng does the Tweety shorts, Tweety would be featured prominently in the beginning, telling everyone, hey, this is a Tweety short, but we get none of that here, and in fact sometimes I forget that this is a Tweety short. So after Tweety does his usual catchphrase, the whole I taught her to a putty tat, and does it ×2 in this case, he points out to two cats, hey, have you two met? And the two cats act like, well, any other cat. When they see a strange cat, their backs all arch up and they start hissing away. But I like the fact that the two cats are fighting, but Tweety, being the sadistic character he is at this point, just ends up deliberately causing more damage for these two cats. And the two cats end up falling down like as though they're a pair of bombs, and Tweety even says, bombs away. I like how this shot is done. It's a little bit unusual from this perspective, and it's not something that Clampett has often done. But I like how Tweety just pops up from the corner saying bombs away, essentially breaking the fourth wall. It's definitely an interesting shot. And once again, Clampett tries to get Tweety and the other catchphrase, which is, oh, the poor putty tat, he fall down, go boom, and does that really creepy looking face at the end of that.
Oh, the poor putty tat. They fall down, go
Boom!
And again, that's a reference to a song by Eddie Cantor called I Fall Down and Go Boom. So the two cats come to, although the red cat once again hits the yellow cat. It's just, I mean, how many times has this yellow cat been hit in this short? He must have some brain damage, although that's probably why he sounds the way he does in this short.
I thought a putty tat, putty tat.
But look at the expressions of the red cat once he hears Tweety and he goes after him. But I wonder who wrote this song where Tweety's singing, I taught her to a putty tat. There's not really much words to it. It's just pretty much him saying that over and over. But as we all know, later on, Tweety would have his own theme song that would become incredibly popular, which is called Tweety's My Name. So maybe this was just an earlier attempt at doing something like that. But, you know, it's a nice song for what it is. Man, this short is violent, and I wonder if all of this stuff was cut for TV. I will assume it does. So if you've seen this on TV, definitely let me know if it was cut or not. But the red cat is pulled back, they hit each other, one even shoots the other in cold blood. Did I say this was violent? Definitely is. But the red cat decides, you know what, let's just call a truce and go after this bird. So the two end up using strategy and end up going to that horse thing. Of course, you also hear the old grey mare, because what other song is Carl Starling going to pick for the scene? But look at the animation. Where to start with it? First of all, look at the design of this thing. Is this meant to fool anyone? But also, I like the fact that you've got the front and the back animated in their own ways. It's as though that you had two different animators animating each half and then they connected it together. I'm pretty sure only one animator did this, but that's how it all comes across. This scene just kills me every time. And the cherry on top, that tongue sticking out of the horse. And because the red cat seems to think the audience is incredibly stupid, he has to pop out and remind people that, hey, he's the horse's head.
It's me. I'm the horse's head.
Oh, that kills me every time. But we see that Tweety is in the actual horse's tail because Tweety ain't stupid. Tweety is definitely sadistic and smart. I mean, you'd have to be pretty sadistic to A, pull out a bee from this pocket that just appears for this one brief bit, B, slap this bee around to the point of pissing it right off, and C, putting it inside this fake horse's butt, and D, actually hitting it with a giant paddle. I mean, this whole thing is just insane, and it kills me every time I see it. So, sure enough, this fake horse starts riding at a greater pace, and we hear the William Tell overture, because what else are we going to hear in a scene like this involving a horse? And Tweety's all about I.O. Silver. And we see him sort of parodying the Lone Ranger, which was a major pulp hero, radio star at the time. And in fact, Clampett even made a Porky Pig short called Lone Stranger and Porky. Porky was barely in it, but still, he still made that short regardless. Oh, and Keith Scott notes in his Cartoon Voices book, he puts a little note here saying when Tweety says hi-ho sliver, it's very blink and you miss it, because I always heard it as hi-ho silver, as I guess you're kind of supposed to, but he writes here that it's a homage to Hugh Harman's Lonesome Stranger MGM cartoon, which I personally haven't seen, but there you are. But when that horse thing goes absolutely berserk, freeze frame it and just look at how insane all of that looks frame by frame, and yet whoever animated that made it all work in motion. It's absolutely incredible. Clampett around this time, just full of these wonderful moments here. So the horse thing continues on, and we see for a brief moment this 3D animated type effect where the background's all moving. We see a tree up ahead. Tweety is looking all shocked, but then stops for a moment and says, "Timber," as the horse thing swirls around this tree and the two cats hit each other. And it's all done to the music too, which again, may not be as precisely musically timed as what a Freeling short would be. Still works pretty well. So the cats pop out of this costume, and the red cat says, "Here comes the naked genius now." And I wonder if that was the line that prompted the haste code to say, oh yeah, this bird character is naked and you can't have a naked character. It's possible. But Clampett doesn't even hide Tweety's sadistic nature. Tweety just goes up to this dog, grabs a bone, and just hits him. The dog barks at him, and Tweety just hits him again. I mean, how strong is Tweety? So Tweety gets the dog to chase after him, and in another bit that looks really awesome, slow mode, he puts the bone inside the costume, and, well, I'm sure you can see what happens here. But I like how they were actually discussing a new plan to get this quote-unquote naked genius, but nah, Tweety's already ahead of everything and just gets this dog to mess with them inside this costume. And again, another great bit of slow-mo is when the three characters in that costume just go off in the distance, and Tweety says another line which I'm assuming Clampett was trying to get to become a catchphrase, where Tweety says, I get rid of more putty tats that way, and he imitates Jimmy Durante as well, and we end there. So now my good friend John is just going to give his thoughts on the short itself. Some of the thoughts might be repeated a little bit, but this is one of his favorites, so I thought, okay, you can come on and say your thoughts. So, take it away, John.
Hello, it's me again, John, and today I want to give my thoughts on one of my all-time favorite cartoons, A Gruesome Twosome. So this cartoon is the final one in what I like to consider the Clampett Tweety trilogy. All the three Tweety cartoons that were made by Clampett, from A Tale to Kitty to Birdie and the Bees, and finally this one. And I think this is an amazing way to end that small trilogy. So the first thing that I love is obviously the cat's designs. I think that out of all the celebrities that were caricatured at the time, I think the animators loved to caricature Durante with the oversized nose. And this is definitely my favorite caricature. In a second place, I'll put the turkey from Jerky Turkey, who's also another Jimmy Durante caricature, which coincidentally, this short got also released the same year as A Gruesome Twosome. So back with the cartoon, about my favorite gags on the short, there's various. Like the first is when a dog appears out of nowhere, interrupts the cartoon, even mentioning that he shouldn't be on the picture, and decides to kiss the female cat and then runs away, with the Durante cat appearing angry and going, everybody wants to get into the act. And I love that out of nowhere gag. Then my next favorite gag is when both cats are already on Tweety's nest and both are starting to pop up their head. And eventually when both of their heads are popping up in the nest, Tweety goes like, "Do you know each other, pretty tats?" And both get angry and hiss to each other until Tweety breaks the fight by smashing their fingers. I really like that. Plus also the whole bombs away. I think my favorite one is just the one after where Tweety is singing and both cats start to fight each other to try to get Tweety. That sequence is very rapid fire and I always like to pause to just see the animation, the posing and the facial expressions. It's such a great cartoon. But yeah, overall, A Gruesome Twosome is one of my all-time favorite Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies shorts. Definitely among the best of Bob Clampett's filmography at 10 out of 10. And a definitely great way to end Clamp's little short tenure with Tweety before Friz Freleng takes over with the character. And that's all that I have to say for Gruesome Twosome. And I'll see you all later in another review.
Thank you, John. Honestly, out of the 3 Tweety shorts done by Clampett, I love all 3, okay? I think they're all great, but I don't know. I think this one might be my favorite. It's just so zany and bonkers. There's no logic to anything. Things just happen, but it's so funny that you just don't care. Like, what were they hoping to achieve out of this stupid fake horse? And why didn't they just go after another bird? Why did they still have to go after this one Tweety bird? But anyway, we also don't see any real resolution of the girl cat. You don't need to, but you don't see it anyway. All in all, this short is hilarious, and it's also an interesting one for animation students to study, where especially you can slow-mo some of the really wacky moments done by Rod Scribner and of course Manny Gould as well. This one, honestly, it's like 9.5 out of 10. It's one of the best. I think it's incredible. While sure, it would have been nice to see the 4th Tweety short that Clampett had planned to make, I still like what Freleng ended up doing with Tweety Pie once that was released a few years after. So it's an end of an era, but hey, you got 3 great shorts by Clampett featuring this naked Tweety. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.